Press. Okay. What do you want to know?